Curious looking vehicle is a 1989 Vixen SE, or Spirit Edition. It was produced by the Vixen Motor Company back in Pontiac, Michigan between 86 and 89. It's a Class A motorhome, which means it has a custom built frame. It is not a conversion. It uses the G20 3/4 ton GM van components for its suspension, wheels, brakes, etc. I bought this 5 years ago with 78,000 miles, and it has 108,000 on it now. It's 26 years old and looks pretty good for that age. There were 3 models built by the Vixen Motor Company. There were 376 TDs. Those are BMW turbo diesel 5-speed models that were produced in 86 and 87. And then when the company started to struggle in 88 because of, I understand, low fuel prices and also some financial dealings with the city of Pontiac, the company started to look to ways to cut the costs, and they came up with the SE, which is this. And the TD had a pop-up roof on it, a tilt roof, and also had, as I said, the BMW turbo diesel in the rear end. When they started struggling, they then switched to this design, which has a solid roof on it, and they changed over to the Buick 3800, which is a pre-Series 1 3800 with the automatic transmission. They just took the transaxle out of the front of the car and then put it in the back of this to make it work. It's an automatic. It has a lockout at 50 miles an hour, and so the RPM drops back pretty well when that happens. It's 21 feet long, it's 8 feet wide, and it's 9 feet high with the air conditioning, which I have off the roof. It's not on here. It's not installed. It's in my garage. I forgot to mention that there were 171 of the SEs produced, and there were 40 XCs, which was the executive model that were produced. The weight is 6,500 pounds dry, and when you add the dog food and the toothbrush and all the firewood, etc., and tools, don't forget the tools, you can get up to 7,000 pounds. The turbo diesel model, the Vixen TD, could get, and I've heard people say they get around 28 miles to a gallon. This model, which is the gas 3800 Buick, depends on the wind, but I've gotten as bad as 12.5, but I've got as good as 18.5 miles per gallon. So I'm satisfied with that mileage. It uses the low-grade fuel, so it doesn't require premium, which is kind of nice. The motor is, like I said, a pre-Series 1 V6, and it's got 165 horsepower and 210 pounds of torque. I live in Colorado at 4,000 feet, and when I go up in the mountains, of course, I could be possibly going up to 12,000 feet, and that's when I'd like to have a 300 horsepower motor, but that's not the case, and so you have to be a little patient. List price on this back in 1989 was $50,000. That was quite a bit of money back then, and it competed with the GM model that was very popular at that time. If you want more information, there is a dedicated website to the Vixen model, and it is vixenrv.com, and that is a site that we all go to get information, to share stories, to share fixes, and without that site, we would have a tough time keeping these on the road. So I'm going to take you around a little tour of the Vixen and show you some things that I understand there's going to be two different types of viewers. One is going to be the Vixen owner, who is looking to see what I've done to this to make it work properly, and then the other viewer is going to be people that are just curious about this machine they maybe have heard about or seen on the highway. So the first thing that, and I'll point out some things that are stock or original and things that are not, that I have modified. My philosophy in restoring this is to not make it concours where every nut and screw is correct. I'm looking for it to be more reliable and perform better. And so that's my philosophy in making this stay on the road. One thing that I've done, this had a hood that came down, and it came down to this part, but there were gaps in the seams here. This was sticking out about 3/4 of an inch. And when I inquired about that on the forum site, they said, well, they came out of the factory that way in the later years. And so I got kind of tired of that look, and went ahead and had done something that nobody else had done. I took it to a fiberglass guy, and I told him to cut the hood at this point, and then fiberglass this into a solid piece across the bottom. And so I had to then fabricate a latch and bracket system here to get the thing to come off. I like it coming off because it gives me easy access to all the components. Once you have the hood off, you can see some things that are particular to the SE, and that is the radiator is in the front, the motor's in the back, and so you've got like 50 feet of coolant tubing and hose that goes between the front and back. Radiator is underneath about a 30-degree angle, and this is the spare tire here. You'll notice that I have a garbage bag on it because I had found that the other tire, the original tire, was terribly cracked. It was dry rotted and cracked, and it was because of the hot air that's circulating under there constantly, and it dried the rubber out. So I went ahead and put it in a baggie. I got a new tire, and I put it in the baggie, and I've driven it probably 10,000 miles with it like this, and I have no more cracking problems on a spare tire. So that's something that I think it works really well. The other thing that you'll notice here, the original came with something called a Power Master system. And because the diesels have lower vacuum, they couldn't rely on the vacuum in order to operate the brake assist. And so they carried that over into the SEs, but I went ahead and changed to a vacuum boost system that is more reliable, because the power assist system used the electric motor to keep an accumulator charged, and my accumulator went bad, and the electric motor was constantly running. And to get components for that, GM only made those power assist systems for about 3 or 4 years, then they dropped it. You know, the components are hard to get. People are scavenging parts off of other vehicles to keep them going, and so I just decided to bite the bullet and upgrade to the power vacuum assist system, and it works really well. So that's the engine compartment, or the hood forward assembly. As we continue around, you can see here's the original radio antenna, fuel fill. It's a 21-gallon tank, and we come back to the removable panel that reveals the 2 auxiliary batteries that are for the coach. Then you have a motor battery for starting. This is the motor oil cooler, and this is where I store my sewer hose. And again, the reason I mention that is because there are existing Vixen owners that would be curious on how I operate this. Something else that you'll see on this is that you won't see on the original are these louvers just under the window. This section in here, this is called the Corson option, and they had some overheating problems because the motor is stuffed back here and there's not a lot of ventilation. So there was one of the Vixen engineers, after the Vixen had met its demise, he came up with a scheme to put in a blower motor that sits on top of the motor, and so it's temperature controlled, and you can hear it kicking on and off right now. And and so it draws cold air in here and then blows it down on top of the motor, and that helps in keeping it cool. If we continue around, we've got the back end here. This is another modification that I made. Originally it came with hinges on the top. Well, they were rusted out, and I kept bumping my head, and I had to get on the ground to get something out of there. And so I went ahead and did something that's a little bit unconventional, and but it works really well. I've been using it now for several years. I've had this unit for 5 years now, and I've put about 30,000 miles on it, and I've got it pretty well worked out and how to use it more efficiently. So it has a 20 amp generator on it. That is the original generator. And then we have, of course, that storage area that you can put chairs and everything else in there. And also for the Vixen owners, this is something that I added, this little strip right here, because I kept getting water inside that compartment. And I just went ahead and screwed and sealed this rubber strip. I got something at Home Depot, and that solved all the water leakage problems in this compartment. It's interesting, these bumpers are fiberglass on the front and the back. They seem to hold up pretty well. Another interesting fact about the Vixens is that the way they constructed these is they built the shells vertically. They have the right part and the left part, and then they join them together in the center. And you can see here we've got a little bit of cracking in that seam of where the two pieces are joined together. But it hasn't been a problem, and I'm not worried about it. Here's the other side. This is detachable panel. So we have the air cleaner for the motor. Of course, we have the fresh air intakes here. Electrical cable. I use that storage area as a water hose. And an interesting thing about this is that when I first started doing this, I thought I was pretty clever. But I didn't put these little ropes on here to keep it into a tight circle. And one time I was going to 80 miles an hour down the freeway, and this somehow worked its way down between the side cover and got into the wheel and broke off the valve stem, which of course had an immediate flat tire, and that caused a little bit of concern. Another modification that I've made that's not original is this little flap door. Normally this is accessible from the inside and reach over the generator, and I saw this, somebody else had made this modification, and so I went ahead and did the same thing. So you can put your tool bag in there and make that compartment more accessible. Another detail is that you'll notice this intake right here. This intake draws air in, and then if you come out the other side, you can see how there is a buildup right here, which then causes a low pressure. And the idea is that it takes the air in on the other side, brings it across the engine bay, and then it exhausts up this side. I don't know how effective that is, but attention. We've got a hot water heater. If you need it, it's propane driven. We've got the sewage access dump, and this has like a 20-gallon tank, and it mixes both the gray water and the black water. Now we've got a TV connection. I put this in. It didn't originally have a TV connector on the outside. It had the luggage rack up here was intended to be used as the TV antenna, and you can see the lead that goes into the interior. But of course, that's not something that could be used nowadays. Then we have an 8-pound propane tank down here. I found propane. The refrigerator that you'll see in a little bit is not propane driven, it's 12 volt. The air conditioner is 110 volt. The stove and the heater are propane driven, and that's about it. So the propane lasts a long, long time. I think it was 3 years before I actually had to refill it. Here's your potable water input, and if you come around, we'll look inside. So this is the stock. This is the stock interior layout that it came out of the factory as. Nothing's been modified here to make it look any different or lay out any different. So we've got the countertop. I put the deep sink in, of course, and here's the stove top. It's a 2-burner, and we have the cupboards underneath. We've got the heater. This is a propane-driven heater. This all works. This is the hot water heater, and one nice thing about the hot water heater is that it's heated by coolant, engine coolant that passes through the water tank, and usually we pull in at night. It's ready to go. It's hot. This couch right here does fold down flat, so you can have a person sitting here. This arm pulls out. There's a cushion that goes in here to give you a level surface. And you can see the captain's chairs, the swiveling captain's chair. Armrests come down. We've got storage up in this area. This goes back about 3 feet, so you can really stuff a lot of stuff back in there. We've got pull-down shades all the way around here, and of course these windows open. We've got an annunciator panel that has the hood light, the fan, water pump, the battery condition. You got fresh water. I've got the tank empty right now, and the tank is underneath the couch here, and it's 10 gallons. Then you've got the sewage tank, and also the gas, the LP gas. Then we have, of course, more storage up here. And then we have the bathroom. Originally, it came with a low-profile stool, and I put in a high-profile stool. It's just a lot more convenient. And it's also supposedly a shower, and you can see the drain in the bottom there for the water to be pumped out of there. But we never use it as a shower. It's too small, and so that's not used. So we have the microwave, a full-size microwave, and this all operates on 110, so you have to be hooked up to land power or have the generator running in order to operate the microwave. And it's very normal that we're going down the highway, and if she wants to heat a cup of coffee or something, she just turns the generator on here, turn it on and off, and then operate the microwave, and then turn the generator off, and you're good to go. And here's the refrigerator. It works well. It has a freezer, and it's 26 years old and just works like a champ, so no reason to change it. We have more storage up here. We've got a closet that you can hang clothes, pants, and shirts. And now I'll show you the motor. There's enough light, and the fan's running right now. It should turn off. Here we go. So the components, what's nice about it is that you can go to any auto parts store and buy parts for the Buick 3800. I mean, there are people that have these SEs that got over 200,000 miles on them, and they've never broken down the motor. So I think everybody understands that Buick V6 is pretty solid. You can see the bed area. It has lights and it has shades and windows, so it's comfortable. Okay, let's go for a ride. One quirky thing about the Vixen is that the automatic transmission that's used with the 3800 does not have a park. And I've never really heard a good reason why that's the case. But the way that you have to park it is put it in neutral and then use the emergency brake. The steering wheel is tilt and also telescopic. You can see the gauges up here. It's fully instrumented. It uses GM ventilation components and controls. So again, if you need to buy any parts, they're readily available. And that's where the VixenRV.com website comes in very handy to get those part numbers. So the gauges that I have are an oil pressure gauge for the motor, of course, the voltage, fuel level. Also, I added myself a transmission oil temperature gauge. And you got speedometer, of course, then you have the tachometer. Then you have the engine temperature gauge in the center. This did not come, this configuration was not original. They had the engine temperature gauge over here where the fuel tank gauge is. But at the time, I was very concerned about the engine temperature, and so I physically transferred the gauges to make it more visible to me. I did replace the radiator with a high-density radiator because I was having cooling problems when I was on these 10,000, 11,000 foot passes here in Colorado. I did have an overheating problem, and at that point I decided I needed to make this thing run a lot cooler. And I went ahead to a radiator shop. They told me there's a Baja version, you know, that's a high-density radiator. Put it in. It solved all my problems. I've got a fan control on the radiator just in case I need it. But I never need it except if I'm in a city and it's 90 degrees and it's stop-and-go traffic. Otherwise, it stays just fine. One thing that came originally that I don't have is a suspension leveling system with an automatic leveler. And it had a compressor up in the front. The bladders inside the coil springs were shot, and to me it didn't really make that much difference. And I didn't want the complexity of having to maintain the bladders and the tubing and the etc. So I just went ahead and removed all that stuff, and I took the control out. And I can mount my GPS here. So that's a minor modification from the original. And the reason that this unit in particular attracted me is because it was purchased originally in Florida. It was then sold to a lady in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And she didn't, when things would break, she never fixed them. So when I got it at 78,000 miles, most everything was broken. Mirror controls didn't work, the speedometer, the odometer didn't work. I just kept finding more and more stuff to fix, and I've eventually got it all fixed, and now it's reliable. And so, what attracted me to this unit, it was tired, but it was complete. Everything was here. Nothing had been modified. It was just as it came out of the factory. But again, it was just tired. And so I ended up having to replace all of the inner paneling, and I repainted everything. I mean, tore the inside pretty much apart and refurbished everything. I put insulation in all the walls, the foam tin covered, the foil covered insulation. I put it all around and tightened everything up. And I'm kind of a stickler for quietness. I hate rattles. And so if there's something rattling, I'll do anything to chase it down and stop it. So I've got it pretty now quiet to the point that I'm satisfied with it, which is more than what most people would think is quiet. Another thing water control was something that when I got into it, I'd find all kinds of water damage. The paneling was a wood paneling, mahogany paneling. We put material over the top of it, and so I replaced all that with plastic paneling, which would not be affected by water. And I found a lot of water damage in some rust areas, and I've been able to take care of all those. So keeping water out of the interior has been was my primary objective when I first got this thing, because I kept finding all this rust and buckled panels and so forth. And one thing that I did, originally there were 5 clearance lights on the front and the back. When I took those clearance lights, the lens off, I found it was just a mound of rust. Everything inside had rusted, and there was some leakage through those holes from the clearance lights. And so I decided I'm not gonna mess with those anymore. And I removed them, and I had some fiberglass work done, and I had him fiberglass over those holes. So I don't have clearance lights on the front of the back like a lot of these do. That's the Vixen RV. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something.